There's a word that gets thrown around a lot in the aquarium hobby, and it tends to mean very different things depending on who's using it. Exotic. For some people it means rare. For others, expensive. For most, it probably means colorful and a little dangerous. But pull that thread far enough, and what you find is biology that operates on rules most people have never heard of. Animals shaped by millions of years of evolution into forms so specific and so strange that keeping one in your home feels less like owning a pet and more like maintaining a private window into a world that existed long before we did. 10 fish. Let's get into it. The discus, Symphysodon, comes from the Amazon River basin, and it has earned the title King of the Aquarium, honestly. Its body is almost perfectly round, laterally compressed, built for slipping through dense underwater vegetation. What separates discus from virtually every other freshwater fish is their parenting. Both parents guard their eggs, fan them for oxygen, and when the fry hatch, the young feed directly from their parents' skin. Adult discus secrete a nutritious mucus, sometimes called discus milk, and the babies press against their parents' bodies to consume it for their first 4 weeks of life. Separate the fry too early, and they rarely survive. It is one of the most unusual parental strategies in the fish kingdom, and it happens in living rooms around the world every day. The silver arowana grows to 3 feet long, leaps out of the water to catch prey from overhanging branches, and is associated across several Asian cultures with dragons, luck, and prosperity. Its body plan is ancient. These fish have remained largely unchanged for tens of millions of years. The mouth opens upward. The barbels hanging from the lower jaw detect movement at the surface before the eyes even confirm it. In the wild, arowanas strike at insects, small birds, bats, and lizards that come too close to the water. In captivity, a tank without a heavy secured lid will eventually contain no arowana. They need a minimum of 250 gallons as adults. The Asian arowana, a close relative, has sold at auction for over $300,000 for a single fish. The silver arowana is legal, widely available, and every bit as demanding. Ask an experienced aquarist what fish they'd recommend if someone wanted something that felt like an actual pet. And more often than not, the answer is an Oscar. Astronotus oculatus has earned the nickname water dog for reasons that hold up under scrutiny. Oscars recognize their owners. They distinguish between the person who feeds them and strangers. They come to the front glass when you approach. Some sulk, genuinely sulk, lying motionless at the bottom, when their tank has been rearranged without warning. They shift color to communicate mood within seconds, vivid and saturated when dominant, pale and flat when stressed. They grow to 14 inches, need at least 75 gallons, and live up to 15 years. The commitment is long. So is the relationship. The Mandarin dragonet may be the most visually extraordinary fish available to home aquarists. Syncharopus splendidus is covered in swirling patterns of electric blue, vivid orange, and deep green that look less like pigmentation and more like illustration. The blue is not structural color. It comes from direct cellular pigment called cyanophores, making the Mandarin dragonet one of the only vertebrates on Earth to produce blue color this way. The challenge is their diet. In the wild, they spend their entire day hunting live copepods, microscopic crustaceans, across reef surfaces, consuming hundreds per day. A mandarin placed in a tank that hasn't been running for at least 6 to 9 months, packed with live rock and ideally a copepod-producing refugium, will starve. Captive-bred specimens can sometimes be trained to accept frozen food. Wild-caught ones almost never do. The flowerhorn cichlid doesn't exist anywhere in nature. It is a hybrid developed in Malaysia, Thailand, and Taiwan in the late 1990s, a product of crossing Central American cichlid species until breeders arrived at something that had no precedent in any river on Earth. Its most recognizable feature is the nuchal hump on the forehead, called a cock, which can grow larger than 5 inches on mature males. In several Asian cultures, the size of the hump corresponds to the owner's fortune. A single golden monkey flowerhorn sold for $600,000 at a Malaysian exhibition in 2009. They recognize their owners, follow movement along the glass, and are ferociously aggressive toward almost every other fish, meaning most are kept alone. 1 tank, 1 fish, for a lifespan of 10 to 12 years. The Volaton's lionfish carries 18 venomous spines, 13 on the dorsal fin, 3 on the anal fin, 2 on the pelvic fins, and each one delivers venom that causes intense pain, swelling, and in rare allergic cases, serious complications. The treatment is immersion in hot water, which denatures the protein-based venom. None of this makes lionfish unsuitable for a home aquarium. It makes them animals that require respect, which any serious aquarist already brings. In the tank, they are hardy, long-lived up to 15 years, and develop recognizable personalities, learning to associate feeding cues with their keeper's presence. There is also an ecological angle. Lionfish are an established invasive species in the Caribbean and Atlantic, introduced almost certainly by aquarium releases. Choosing a specimen harvested from those invasive populations is one of the rare cases where keeping an exotic fish is also a conservation act. Most people assume stingrays belong to the ocean. The Potamotrigonidae family would like to correct that. These are fully freshwater rays from the Amazon River system, which diverged from marine relatives millions of years ago when the Amazon was still connected to the sea. In an aquarium, their movement, a low, fluid glide along the substrate, the slow, continuous ripple of the disc's edges, is unlike anything else you can keep. Many species carry striking patterning, vivid yellow-orange spots ringed in dark, intricate geometric markings. They can learn to recognize their owners and accept food from a hand. They need tanks with a footprint of at least 8 by 4 feet, deep sand substrate, and near-perfect water quality. They are not beginner fish, but there is genuinely nothing else like them. The payara, better known as the vampire tetra, has 2 fangs protruding from its lower jaw that can reach between 4 and 6 inches in length, with corresponding sockets in the upper jaw to accommodate them when the mouth closes. The rest of the fish is built for speed, sleek, silver, and powerful. In the wild, it hunts fast-moving prey in the oxygenated rivers of the Amazon basin, including piranha. In captivity, vampire tetras are strictly carnivorous, require highly oxygenated water with significant current, and are almost always wild-caught, which means they carry wild sensitivities. Their lifespan in captivity is measured in months if conditions aren't precisely right. The commitment is enormous. There is nothing else in freshwater fish keeping that looks remotely like it. The pea puffer proves you don't need a 250-gallon tank to keep something genuinely remarkable. Carinotetraodon travancoricus, the smallest pufferfish in the world, reaches exactly 1 inch as an adult. It is native to freshwater rivers in southwestern India, costs between $3 and $15, and fits comfortably in a planted 10-gallon aquarium. What it delivers in return is personality entirely out of proportion to its size. Its eyes move independently, scanning in different directions simultaneously. It hovers and pivots with helicopter precision. It investigates everything in its environment with visible curiosity. It recognizes its owners. Its teeth grow continuously and need to be worn down by hard-shelled prey. A steady supply of pest snails is standard care. 1 inch of fish. An outsized amount of character. The koi was developed by rice farmers in the Niigata prefecture of Japan in the early 19th century, from ordinary food carp that occasionally produced color mutations. Over generations, breeders selected for pattern, layered color, and refined body shape until they arrived at a fish whose visual complexity rivals anything painted on silk. Individual koi of exceptional lineage are valued in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. They live for decades. Some alive today were born in the 1960s. They grow to over 3 feet. They surface for feeding, follow their keeper along the pond edge, and learn to eat from hands. The koi is the oldest relationship on this list between a human and a fish, kept purely for its beauty. That relationship, carried forward across 2 centuries of careful attention, is still ongoing. The thread running through all 10 of these fish is the same thing. Each one is the product of an evolutionary history, or in the flowerhorn's case, a human creative history. So long and so specific that the word exotic barely covers it. What they are is themselves, completely, entirely, without apology. The job of anyone who keeps them is simply to make space for that.